Hello, my name is Michael Schnabel, and I've written a book called Daddy's Girl. The book is about my daughter, Stephanie, and I'll give you a little bit of the backstory. Stephanie brought so much joy and happiness in our lives when she gave birth to our first grandchild. But unfortunately, 2 weeks later, we found out that she had stage 4 colon cancer. With that diagnosis, she was given an 8% chance of living for about 5 years. So we went from the highest of highs as a grandparent and a parent to the lowest of lows. But this story is not really about that because 3 years later, her Mayo oncologist told her that she was cured. We couldn't believe it. It was just amazing to us. And then he told us something else. He talked about the fact that we needed to share Stephanie's story because it provided hope to other people. And with all of the different cancer patients that he treated, that was the one thing they really lacked was hope oftentimes. So you now know that the story's got a happy ending. Let me tell you a little bit about my daughter. I was amazed when we first found out the first night we had the diagnosis, we were all crushed. We all went into shock. And my daughter really looked at it in two ways. She didn't want to die, she wanted to live. But more importantly, she had just given birth to this new child. And she was so afraid that the newborn would not have a mom to guide her and to know how much that the baby really wouldn't even know her other than pictures. And she thought it was so important for him to know what she was and who she was that she made that her reason to really survive and to fight as hard as she did. And she fought so hard, I couldn't believe it. I don't think that I could have done the things that she did. But it's interesting because if you think about it, sometimes we're willing to fight for a cause more than we're willing to go ahead and fight for ourselves. And I think that's what happened with my daughter. When this happened to my daughter, we had 3 years of ups and downs. And two things stood out. First of all, her faith. We all have faith in God and our family, but it's never really been tested like it was here. And we found that we were surprised because Stephanie, none of us really said, why is this happening? We never got angry with God. It was nothing like that. It was more like, what should we learn from this? And what we found out as we went through this, there were a lot of highs and lows, but whenever we got into the most desperate times, the most difficult times, we always got the best possible solution. And that just continued to go ahead and fuel our belief and our faith. And I think we would have had a really difficult time going through this process without her. The other thing that surprised me about Stephanie was her attitude. The first night we got the diagnosis, she was a victim. We all were. We were in shock. But slowly, she turned into a warrior. And by that, I mean she started looking at the tools that are available as we found the right doctors and we found the right cancer centers, and they wanted to do chemotherapy. Her first reaction was fear. But then she started looking at these things in a different way. Every time she had the chemo, it was another tool that she could use to overcome her cancer, to go ahead and kill the cancer. Same with the surgeries. She always took the most aggressive route, the highest doses, the multiple doses of chemotherapy. If we weren't at the point she wanted to be, we'd go through another round. And I was just amazed at her strength. She kept a positive attitude. And that was so important because we formed a team of 5 around her, our immediate family, her husband, Mark, my wife, Colleen, myself, and that newborn baby, Caden. And sometimes we all took different times to be the leaders in that group. But what was amazing to me is oftentimes that baby was the strongest or the most helpful part of our team because the baby offered us an escape, a way to go ahead and remove ourselves from all the drama and all the emotions that we had because he was innocent, he was unaware. He gave us the smiles, he gave us the coos, and he really gave us a chance to go ahead and escape. My daughter, Stephanie, was incredibly positive throughout this whole thing. She had her down days, certainly. She had times when the chemo or other things overtook her, but usually she was the most positive person on our team. And I often asked and thought about why she was able to do this. And she talked about her faith being one of the things, but she also then confided in me and said, well, to be honest, Dad, there were a lot of times I was hanging by a thread, but I know that we were all in this together and that I promised you I would fight and give everything that I could to go ahead and overcome this disease. And because of that, even when I was hanging by a thread, I tried to put a smile on my face and do what was best for all of us. So she was a great example. We had the ultimate outcome that we wanted to go ahead and have her survive. And everything that we went through was worth it. In fact, our last visit to Mayo, as we walked out, I asked her, if you had this to do over again, would you do it? And she thought about it for a minute and she says, yeah, I would, because as difficult as it was, it made me who I am today.